I want to call the June 11th, 2020 Daviess County Fiscal Court meeting to order. Commissioner Commissioner Koger, I knew I was going to do that. Would you lead us in a prayer and the pledge, please?
I will. Have you pray? Lord, we praise and thank you for all your blessings. Please continue to guide the members of this body in your willful direction. Lord, remind us that it is you that we truly serve when serving the citizens of this community. We praise you for entrusting us to lead our county. Pray for our firemen, policemen, military, and first responders to always be safe. All this we pray through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Koger, and that wasn't an invite for the other commissioner to come across the street. I can guarantee you that. I hope that you don't mind if I'm here without my jacket this evening. I took it off, left it in my office in preparation for the temperature in the courtroom to go up right after KYTC does their presentation. So just preparing myself. The first item on the agenda is consideration for presentation A, the rural and secondary program by KYTC. So if you would come and identify yourself. I think you've got a handheld mic there. Jason, let me welcome you. Oh, that's not Jason. We have to be nice to this guy.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate that. Members of the Fiscal Court, I'm here to present to you the Rural Secondary Program for fiscal year 2021. You should have already received your presentation packets. And we're going to begin with our funding amounts. This year, the KYTC funds come to $723,000, and the flex funds, which was 20% of our total funds, was $278,000. That amount reflects a 10% reduction that we were ordered to account for due to the COVID-19 shutdown. Budget receipts dropped, and Frankfurt said we had to do a 10% reduction, so the totals here already reflect that. Our first recommendation is on Kentucky 142. We're going to do an asphalt resurface beginning at Kentucky 54 and going out to Lane Road. Now that also includes a large culvert that is collapsing out there. It's a 114-inch equivalent pipe. It's a really large pipe. It's much bigger than our crews can handle. So we threw that into this contract to get that repaired and get it resurfaced after it's replaced. The second recommendation is Kentucky 1554. That is also going to be a resurfacing project beginning at Kentucky 56 and going out to the Audubon Parkway. That is only about 0.77 miles, but that is also the roughest portion of this road. You may recall just last week, I believe it was, we had to shut down due to another culvert that collapsed, head wall separated with all the garbage trucks coming through there. We didn't want to take the chance. We found a pipe, found everything we needed, and went ahead and got that replaced.
That's actually from the Audubon exit.
Yes.
256.
Yes.
Was it that part of a detour that KYTC
Yes, that was part of
used when 60 was raised?
Correct, sir. That was part of that detour.
When are they going to get the rest of that road?
That I do not know. We looked at it, but then we had these other things came up that need to be repaired. So we shortened that up because we've also got a 36-inch culvert on this road just as soon as you turn off of 56. That's collapsing. One end is 36 inches, the other's 24. So we've got a lot of utilities in there. So we've thrown that in there. The cost on that was fairly cheap for the project.
Could you, just for this court's knowledge, try to find out, and I know next year is way in the future, but when they might have plans, and Mark 1554 going the other way is in terrible shape as a result of the detour. Could you maybe see if they have that on on their list, Commissioner.
Are you gonna, as 1554 comes to 56, there's a little Y there and it might create a
Yes.
triangle. Are you gonna do all that, both parts of that?
Well, we're trying to see if we've got the funding to maybe add to. You see that we've got an amount on here of 150,000. And we're already in discussions and started looking at completely redoing that intersection as part of this project. So we're not sure yet if we can do it, but we're looking into just eliminating that whole Y and having that road come straight into 56 and making it a nice wide.
T, like a T? You
How
make
will
a
you be able
T-bone
to turn?
intersection?
Going west?
Well, it'll be a wide entrance there, so that we're going to make it as wide as we can so the trucks can make that turn.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
we sat there and we watched traffic come through, and as trucks are making that turn going from 1554 to 56,
Right.
they're cutting over into that hillside, into that bank. And if the trucks are coming onto 1554, if there's a car sitting there, they can't make their turn off of 56. So we're going to try to rework that intersection, and it'll improve sight distance. We've already looked at that.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we're
That's-
thinking.
That's pretty dangerous right there.
We're thinking maybe $30,000, but we haven't come up with the full numbers yet. We're going to have our design people look at it too. I just finished the bud locate on that, and it looks like we are clear of utilities, other than the one pole that's out there. And we've been told it shouldn't be a problem getting utilities to move it, but we haven't progressed that far. But we are planning on addressing that intersection.
So just for my clarification, you do plan to address that intersection?
Yes, we've already been talking about that.
Okay. Mr. Intern, do you agree with what he just said? Oh, okay. Why don't you introduce the gentleman
I'm sorry,
that you
I
brought with
got ahead
you?
of myself. This is Shane Gray. He is our summer scholarship student.
Okay.
He's been assigned to work with me this summer, and we've got our chief, Denitra Henderson, over here. So she can answer any of the hard questions.
I think
that
I met
can.
her once, or I've talked with her a few times. Any other question? All right, go ahead.
I said, and the next recommendation is Kentucky 405 to do a resurfacing project beginning at 144 and going out to Graves Lane. Estimate on that was $280,000.
Okay, you know, you mentioned the intersection there at 1554 and 56. We've got one at 405, 144 that's people complain about all the time. Now, it was reworked some, wasn't it, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and we'll see if we've got funding to, because Jason's goal is to eliminate those Y intersections wherever possible. You know, so, and that's one that we just didn't get around to going out and looking at yet, but possibility we can try to fit, eliminating that whole open Y area and making it just one big intersection.
I would encourage you to look at that one because we continue to get complaints about that one. And my understanding there's a project up there that's going to start a whole lot of traffic in that area, and that you guys may be doing some work on 144 anyway with decel lanes, and it would be interesting to make sure that people could get onto 144 and off at 144 safely.
Yeah, like I said, we went out and looked at 1554 intersection, and we talked about sight distance issues there, because if you're trying to pull off the one side, you can't see to the east, and it's just not it's just not a good situation.
Okay.
So we're going to try and address that, and we'll look at the 405 as well. It's just not as bad as the 1554 intersection.
Now, 1554, when you get old like me and I pull up and I try to look over my right shoulder to see what's running west to east, it's hard to see. So sometimes I just run through that intersection. Oh, I didn't see you, Mr. County Attorney. Thanks for letting me know you're in here.
Do I have any other questions or concerns?
Commissioners, I noticed that you also gave us an alternate number 2, and I always am interested in what that alternate is before we tell you no. So would you want to go over it?
Well, I eliminated those from the slides because
Okay.
we knew which one you were going for, but we do have an issue at the intersection of Tie Bridge Road and 554.
Yes, you do.
And we've got an estimate prepared for that. Right now, I'm looking at alternate funding to see if that might be a possibility, but I just can't guarantee that. But I am checking to see if there might be some other fund that we can pull that from.
Is it an emergency?
No, it's not an emergency. The main problem there is because of that deep ditch.
Okay, yeah.
And when we use that for a detour,
That's
so
the
much.
main problem, is
That's, yeah.
detour.
Yes.
Well, I hope you don't find alternate sources of money from the 81 bridge replacement. You weren't looking at that.
We tried to include that in there, but that got rejected. We did try to do that, but they said no. That was a little bit too far for them to justify that. But yes, the option there is we were looking at replacing that double barrel box with an aluminum box that's completely open and extending it 30 feet north on the north side, 50 feet on the south side. And if we can come up with it, we would like to extend it 50 feet on the north side and 50 feet on the south side. That way, all of that area in there that's now just an open drop would become just a solid piece of ground where if somebody has an accident, they go off in the grass and not down into the ditch.
Mark, when he said double barrel box, is that the same thing as 7 pipes when you can't afford the right size? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Commissioners, anything else? Any other questions before we ask our District 2 engineer to approach the podium? What is it that you need from us? I think you want us to approve those, and then we've got to come back with another resolution saying we want to spend the 20%,
Yeah,
our
the flex funds.
Of the flex funds on something else. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yes, I think you have to say that you want to keep the flex funds and then you have to approve this.
Do it all tonight.
Yeah,
Is that-
commissioners,
just approve-
I
approve
would,
what they've submitted.
you have a question?
Yeah, I just want clarification on
Okay.
your comment about the double barrel drain, because that's not there now, right? It's an open, it's a real
Yep.
bridge.
No, it's called a double barrel box
Yeah.
culvert, that's what it's called. Yes,
Double
it's-
barrel box covered, it's not pipes, but
It's
it's,
not quite as restricted.
remember the
I do remember what
the
you're
road
talking about.
of 7 pipes that
Yes.
I bash our former county engineer
I
and
do.
informed this engineer if he ever did one like that, he wouldn't be here very long.
I do remember that.
By the way, you might check back with me tomorrow. Mark and I aren't getting along very well.
As long as he's not coming back to us.
All right.
So what you're talking about extending is already there.
Right.
Yeah, what we would want to do is taking that one out and replacing it with a newer culvert. Because that double barrel, it's got about a 12-inch wide wall in the middle. It catches debris.
Yes,
And when we have a lot of flooding, we have to go out there and clean that out.
right.
So the alternative is an aluminum box culvert, which is completely open, just one arch all the way over. So water can get through easier and we're less likely to catch debris there.
Gotcha.
How long have you been using those? The aluminum, the
The aluminum
arch
box?
cover? How much? How long?
As long as I've been here, and that's been about 10 years.
Okay, I started saying about when we came to fiscal court at some of our conferences, there were some companies who were I started seeing those, and they look like they are a good alternative.
We have used several of them to replace bad bridges and culverts, especially some of them where we may have a double culvert and we can use just one open arch.
Right.
That greatly increases our flow capacity. So every time you put an obstacle in the middle of the stream, it just reduces the amount of water that can get through.
Well, and catches debris like
Yes.
you were
And that just further reduces the problem.
Any other question or comment, commissioners? Since I don't, David, have you gotten any comments or questions from the public who's watching that? By the way, welcome public to our next to last live stream, I hope. We're anticipating starting live meetings where the public could attend the meetings the 1st of July. I think it's at the 2nd of July would be, because the 4th is on a Saturday, so it'd be the 2nd of July.
We'll still live stream them, but they can come in.
Oh, yeah, but they can actually come, and most people like to come in and raise Cain with you, Commissioner,
Right,
not
I understand.
type it. So, Claude, do I need two motions? Okay, Commissioners, first I would ask for a motion that we reject alternate number 2 and take the flex funds and use on county roads.
I'd like to
So
make a
moved.
motion that we reject option number 2 and take, what did you say?
The flex funds and
Flex
use them on
fund.
county roads.
Yes.
And I'll second that.
And I have a second. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Commissioners, next, I would like a motion to accept the proposal to resurface and repair and resurface, or upgrade, or whatever we would call it, the roads that were presented to us tonight by KYTC.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion, second. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Do you have
Members of
anything
Fiscal
else
Court.
for us? Anything else?
I don't have anything else unless you've got further questions or concerns.
Just say hi to Jason for me. Ms. Henderson, would you approach so we could talk to you a little bit? Yes? What I'm about to say is not, but would you mind, I know that you KYTC did a press release today regarding the 81 bridge. Would you mind going over what's going to happen out there, why it's happening that way? And I might say, Commissioners, just before I came in here, I had a conversation with Secretary Gray, and he assured me that he would personally keep an eye on this bridge repair and make sure it progresses the way it should. I'm sure that personal eye will be in the form of our District 2 engineer. But would you mind just kind of give us a synopsis of what's going to go on out there?
Yes, so immediately after the bridge was hit, I was on site along with a few other people. We had the bridge closed down, and the inspectors at that time told me the damage was so great that they did not see any way we could repair the bridge this time. So the next day, I was on site with several of our own engineers, some elected officials that were especially interested, and also several different contractors, one of which that produces these aluminum box culverts that we use frequently, and another contractor that had a temporary Bailey bridge, a military-style bridge, because I thought if we have to replace this bridge, I did not want it to stay closed for the duration of the new construction. And so, as if any of you have been out there, you've seen that the trees have been demolished in preparation for a temporary bridge, or even a new one if that's where we needed to put it. Since that time, engineers in Frankfurt have looked at it a little closer, and they decided that we could repair the bridge. And we had to reach out to a neighboring district. The Paducah Highway District has an agreement, a standing agreement in place with the company. It's actually the same company that was going to provide us the temporary bridge. And they have a pre-arranged agreement with preset prices for certain types of bridge repairs. And they put together an estimate on it, gave that back to us on Tuesday, and we were able to fix the bridge according to the plans that the Frankfurt engineers determined for $241,000, which is, if we can fix it for that price and have it open in about 2 months, there's no way I can argue we need to put a new bridge in if we can get it open quickly and cheaply. So the bridge is still nearing the end of its lifespan. We understand that, and typically if we were in a different budget situation, we might have decided to go ahead and put the new bridge in now, put a temporary bridge in and go ahead and replace it instead of to continue to repair it. But we're not in a budget situation where we can do that right now. So if we have a repair option that we can fix this for $241,000, plus have it open hopefully before school starts, then that's what we decided to do. The paperwork was completed this morning. Contractor has been given the notice to proceed, and I heard from the contractor this afternoon, and they said they had actually ordered already the materials, and we should start to see those materials arrive within about a week 2 weeks at the latest, and you'll see some heavy construction start on that bridge.
Would you, also, I think we left out, they are going to raise the bridge, the height of the superstructure 2 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't believe that the top will be raised, but there are some X's in the very top of the bridge, and those will be squashed a little so that the cross members on the top will be about 2 feet higher. So there will be 17 feet of clearance
Okay.
after it's over, where there was previously 14 and a half.
But just to speak to that, what's the standard clearance on a bridge?
Less than 14 and a half.
Yeah.
13 and a half, I believe, is, anything under 13 and a half is what.
So
we
there were a lot of folks
sign.
who said, oh, that, you know, a lot of my Facebook engineers who said that this bridge should have had signs, it should have, the only time they put signs up is when the clearance is less than the standard
Yes.
clearance, isn't that correct?
Yes, yes, so that's why it was not signed. We actually have a safety project in progress for the entire Kentucky 81 corridor, and we've looked at a lot of different safety issues along that route and some things we can do. One of the things we spoke about, just because it is such a huge disruption for the locals when this bridge is closed, if it was to be hit by an oversized load, Mr. Phelps had proposed the type of things you see, the barricade you see maybe in front of a drive-through or a parking structure. So we had proposed one of those, but we're very early in that project. I talked to that engineering firm on Tuesday, and he said they're expediting those plans so that maybe, even though you should not hit this bridge with a standard size load twice in 12 months means that that's not working for us. So we do plan on putting one of these barricade type
Well,
structures.
let's just be clear. The bridge wasn't hit by an oversized load. The bridge was hit by a truck that had a boom raised. I mean, you can't predict those kinds of things. And another issue would be, I think that our bridge, the 81 bridge, had as much, if not more, clearance than the Blue Bridge over the Ohio River.
Correct.
And so if that truck had gone over that Blue Bridge, it would have done the same thing.
I told you yesterday not to jinx us. So.
I know it. I know it. Where are you going to get the next bit of money? Commissioner Wathen is the district, Western District Commissioner. I almost called you a nasty word, an engineer. And
That's all right.
he's going to get the brunt of the questions.
Yeah.
And
I just want to ask you to clarify, did you say you're going to put some kind of structure before you get to the bridge, like a pipe across the road, to be very specific?
Scott, what do you remember from that meeting?
It's kind of a warning shot that you're,
Was it steel I-beams?
We're looking at several options. The one that I prefer was the most expensive, obviously, because I'm an engineer and I like to spend money that way, was that we put in a sensor system so that if the load is too high, the sensors could detect that load and put a stoplight, flashing stoplight, something to tell them to stop before they get there. The other option was just as we talk about, putting some kind of either a beam or something across the roadway there to give them some warning. But as someone said in our meeting, if you've got an excavator on a low boy and the boom is too high, you're not going to feel that beam, but maybe you would see the flashing lights ahead of you on the bridge to stop you. So, but yeah, those are the options that we were looking at.
we actually had that happen to an overpass on Old Hartford Road where an excavator that the boom was extended hit that overpass. I mean, things happen. The fact that it happened twice in the span of 9 months, yeah, is just unusual, and we certainly, let's put it this way, Denitra, neither the state nor Daviess County wanted to see that happen.
No.
And we certainly are not happy that we've got to go back to the detour. Now, I did have some questions regarding stoplights at the intersections along 554.
In Frederica?
Well, no, this was at Todd Bridge Road where we got some issues. And, I mean, if we did it there, we would have to, at every intersection along that detour, we'd have to do the same thing.
So to turn onto Todd Bridge Road is not the official detour. We are directing people straight up to US 431 Frederica.
Yes, no, and I understand, but there's an intersection where people come into and out of, And that's where they're concerned. They're crossing there and then 431, I guarantee you, well, it will be repaired by the time school starts and by the time we start hauling grain again, won't it? So I won't get those complaints about the long lines of getting out, will I?
That's what I'm told.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comment, questions? All right, I certainly would open the mic up for our intern if he wanted to come up and say a thing or two, but,
You can
I mean, you're gonna have to learn how to deal with these guys. And it's not pleasant sometimes. Mark, did they tell us the truth? Everything they tell us was the truth? You guys, Claude, if engineers weren't engineers, they'd be attorneys, right? All right, thank you guys for being here. There's no need for you to stay, hop out. The need to get them working as quick as you can.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
To push that button. Item 2, consideration for approval, A, minutes of the May 21st, 2020 Daviess County Fiscal Court meeting.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioners all have copies of this in your possession for some time. Any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
B, all claims for all departments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Again, I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, you've had a copy of all the bills due and payable to Daviess County Fiscal Court in your possession for some time. Any questions of the treasurer? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
C, budget transfers.
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Hendricks.
Every year about this time of year, we start making budget transfers. To remind you, under our accounting rules, we cannot have an actual expense item that exceeds the budget. We obviously cannot budget all actual items above that because that would be an idiotic budget. So each year, we'll have a number of items that go over budget, and we'll offset them with items that didn't go over, or by revenues, reimbursements, some income stream, and that's the case with the ones I've analyzed here. So I come to you seeking permission to transfer $2,736,700 in the general fund. Now that's a huge number, and it does not mean that that's additional expense, because it's not. In fact, with a budget transfer, we can only do it if the budget stays the same. Otherwise, we would have to do a budget amendment. So the budget, the total budget actually did not change, but I'm moving $2,700,000 from the reserve account to these expense accounts. That also does not mean that we're reducing the reserve by $2,700,000. And I'll just to show you the 3 or 4 examples. There's $200,000 of it that's insurance reimbursement, so we have a revenue item that offset that $200,000. We had under the reimbursement, there's $125,000. The majority of that is correcting an error where the item should have been recorded in the solid waste fund. The Schertzinger building is purchased and is hitting the reserve because it was not budgeted, and the court approved that. The $800,000 for Judicial Center was reimbursed by ELC, and at least $200,000 of the expenses will likely be reimbursable by the CARES COVID funds. So those are a few of the examples that where I show you that it's actually not additional expense. It's not reducing the reserve by that amount of money. Also request permission to transfer $200,100 from road fund, $70,600 from the jail fund, $816,700 from the solid waste fund.
Commissioners, question or comment? And Mr. Treasurer, you probably at our next meeting will bring a much smaller amount back to us.
Yeah, normally the first round is the most. There will be more, but it won't be near as many. Yeah.
I know sometimes at the tail end of the month, right before the end of the fiscal year, we have an extra meeting. Will we be doing that this month, or do you not anticipate
The last
that?
meeting's the last day of the month.
Oh, okay.
The way the schedule hit, so we're
Gotcha.
meeting June 30th.
Okay.
And once again, I want to emphasize, Mr. Treasurer, we have not increased our budget. The total budget did not increase. We're just shuffling funds from within that budget.
That is correct.
Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
D, Resolution 15, 2020 Coronavirus Relief Fund Grant Application.
Move to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and second. Jim, are you going to do this, or is somebody, Jordan, you going to do it?
You want me to do it? I'll do it, Judge. And for us to have the ability to be reimbursed, and there will be a number, we're having meetings right now to clarify which expense, there's some obvious expenses that are eligible, and there's some that are gray, and we're getting educated on which ones are acceptable so that we do this correctly. But in order to do that, we must file a resolution. That's the thing you need to vote on here. This is a resolution that says we're seeking reimbursement. We know what the funds are for, and the expenses that we apply were used for those specific purposes. So I would suggest approval.
Question or comment? Just comment a little more. Greg and I, we both are in agreement with the way we read things. Our agreement between the two of us is not the same as being told by other folks. We under the CARES Act, were eligible for $3.4 million, 3.4 plus in reimbursables. Do not think that they sent us a check for $3.4 million. It's kind of an account that we can draw against the funds that qualify to be reimbursed. So we're going to be looking at each and everything that we're doing. Commissioner Watson, we think the committee you serve on, the United Way Committee, that we may be able to be reimbursed for that $150,000 since it's clearly COVID related relief. So they're just, but we have until December 31st, so we're not in a, and we can make multiple requests. And in a Zoom meeting yesterday with the lady from DLG, and I can't remember the lady's name, but after a couple of questions, she suggested that if we had questions, to send them examples of what we were going to try to use this for, reimbursement. But the worst thing in the world would be for us to claim reimbursement, get reimbursement, and then the auditor say you double dipped or you weren't eligible. And as I said on that meeting yesterday, it's not my face that I want the front page of this paper.
Amen.
If I get DLG to at least say, yes, you're eligible, and yes, it's qualified, then it kind of gives us a little place to go. So, any other question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
E, Resolution 17, 2020 Springhill at Lake Forest Subdivision Street Lighting District.
Motion approved?
Second.
I have a motion and second. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Judge. As you're aware, street lighting districts are a method provided by state law where a subdivision in an unincorporated area of the county can install streetlights and petition the fiscal court to create a lighting district to allocate and collect the cost of the lights. The annual meter cost of the lights within the subdivision is divided by the number of parcels and placed on the respective tax bills, with the amount collected ultimately remitted to the utility provider. In this particular case, streetlights were installed at Springhill at Lake Forest, and given its location, they were included in the allocation of the Lake Forest subdivision. The Homeowners Association of Springhill at Lake Forest has requested that their area be segmented as its own lighting district, separate from the Lake Forest subdivision, and have done so via petition in accordance with the law. The utility nor the developers submitted a request to properly segment this subdivision during development, so this resolution corrects that issue. Our legal department has reviewed it. It is in order, and I would recommend approval.
Question or comment, commissioners?
This is kind of unique compared to most of these that we do on, because
What's the advantage of separating?
A lot cheaper, probably cuts their cost in half, I think. Isn't that correct, Jordan?
Yes, only 4 or 5 lights service this segment.
Where they would have been splitting the cost of all the lighting in Lake Forest. Now they're only splitting the cost of the lights along Springhill Drive.
That's correct.
3 or 4 lights among all the condos. That's where the condos are on the backside. I think it said it'd save them about $28 each of those properties roughly. Yeah, approximately $28. So, I mean, it makes sense.
So we got enough signatures, I think you needed, what, about 70 or something?
100%.
100%. Any other question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
F, contract with Daviess County Board of Education for the 2021 transportation of non-public school students.
Move to approve.
I have a motion second. Mr. Hendricks.
This is a contract they bring every time, about this time every year. You dealt with the issue about 2 courts ago, but that was dealing with the current fiscal year and filing for reimbursement. This is the contract for the new fiscal year beginning in July. It's similar to the current one. It's got the same amounts in it. We pay $75,000 a quarter for a total of $300,000. The actual expense has been running closer because of gas prices to $2.25 to $2.50, and we'll true that up with the first quarter payment. So I recommend approval.
Commissioners, Mr. Hendricks and I had a conversation. They do true it up, meaning that if we don't use the service, we don't pay for the service. So it's you know, and this is for all non-public school students. Any question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On the next item, Jenny, once you read all these, then I'm going to ask Mr. Johnson to take them just as we have in the past. He will stop on each item, give you time to ask questions or make comments. If you wish any of these items to be moved out and voted on separately, then we'll take them out. I would ask, as you've already looked at them, are there any that you would prefer not to be included in that list? Okay, Jenny, read it.
G, award the following bids: 8, 2020 pavement striping; 12, 2020 ready mix concrete; 13, 2020 tar coated culvert pipe; 14, 2020 county uniforms; 15, 2020 crushed limestone; 16, 2020 tire repair and maintenance services; 17, 2020 janitorial services for county administrative facilities; 18, 2020 janitorial services for the Morton J. Holbrook Judicial Center; 19, 2020 janitorial services for Robert M. Kirtley Judicial Annex; and 20, 2020 fire rescue uniforms.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Jenny, you want to read that last one 3 times real fast? All right, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Judge. The following bids are service contracts that pivot on the fiscal year and are reviewed annually. Each contract term is for the period extending from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. Starting with bid number 8, 2020, we received 1 bid for pavement striping services submitted by Reynolds Sealing and Striping for 31 cents per linear foot. The price decrease of 8.82% from last year's rate is expected. Given the global market conditions, there are no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Any questions, Commissioners? Next item.
Bid 12, 2020, we received 2 bids for the provision of ready-mix concrete, fibrous concrete reinforcement, and excavatable flowable fill, and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bids submitted by Yeager Materials for the presented rate schedule. Increases in unit pricing are comparable to prior years. The exceptions are minor, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, Commissioners? Next item.
13, 2020, we received 1 bid for the provision of tar-coated culvert pipes submitted by Hagen and Stone Wholesale Incorporated for the presented rate schedule. There are no exceptions, and I would recommend approval. It should be noted that the rate increase from the prior year is relatively high at 21.46%. We are mitigating this by conducting a polymer-coated culvert pipe bid, which is typically cheaper than bituminous-coated pipe, to give the engineering department options when pricing installation.
Questions? Mark, polymer coated versus bituminous?
Difference is the coating.
I know it's the difference is the coating, but which lasts longer or which is better or which have you had the most success with?
A lot of variables depending on the environment they're put in, sunlight exposure, things of that nature. The benefit of polymer may be that it's easier to deal with, that tar doesn't get on the employees and so forth. But other than that, I've heard good things about polymer. I think we've used some polymer in some locations, so it's an option.
Okay. Next item.
14-2020, we received 2 bids for the provision of county uniforms per our allotment system and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by UniFirst per the presented rate schedule. This bid covers landfill administration, transfer station animal control, road, parks, maintenance, fleet maintenance, EMA, and all seasonal employees. The exceptions are minor, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, commissioners? Next item.
15-2020, we received 1 bid for the provision of crushed limestone, river gravel, and sand submitted by Yeager Materials for the presented rate schedule. Increases in unit pricing are comparable to prior years. There are no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, commissioners? Next item.
16-2020, we received 2 bids for the provision of tire repair and maintenance services for the solid waste department and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by Best One Tire for the presented rate schedule. The price decrease is in agreement with market trends. There are no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, commissioners? Jordan, Best One Tire currently has a contract?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We are satisfied with them. All the departments are satisfied.
Highly.
Okay. Thank you. Next item.
17-2020, we received 5 bids for the provision of janitorial services at the county courthouse, operations center, landfill office, transfer station office, and Schertzinger building, and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid of Purest Clean for the presented rate schedule. This would result in an annual rate of $59,940 for all facilities. There were no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, commissioners? Jordan, Purist currently has a contract.
Yes, sir.
We've been satisfied.
Very much so.
Okay, next item.
18-2020, we received 5 bids for the provision of janitorial services at the Judicial Center and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid of Purest Clean for the presented rate schedule. This would result in an annual rate of $49,200. There were no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Questions, commissioners? Purist currently has that contract.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next item.
19-2020, we received 5 bids for the provision of janitorial services at the Judicial Annex and recommend award to the best evaluated bid of Purest Clean for the presented rate schedule. This would result in an annual rate of $18,540. There are no exceptions, and I would recommend approval. You will note that there are 3 lower bids. The lowest bid issued a statement that they would only accept award for bid 19-2020 if they were awarded the other 2 cleaning contracts. We found this contingency unacceptable. The other 2 bids were within approximately $300 per month of the recommended vendor. We believe that the benefits of coordinated security access to facilities housing sensitive information by a single vendor, coupled with satisfactory past service, was sufficient evaluative criteria for the recommendation.
Purist did not have this contract last year. This
No,
is
sir.
a change,
This is a new addition.
new addition to the cleaning schedule, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Next item.
2020, we received 2 bids for the provision of county uniforms per our allotment system for the Daviess County Fire Department and recommend the lowest and best evaluated bid of Siegel's uniforms for the presented rate schedule. There were no exceptions, and I would recommend approval.
Questions or comments, commissioners? We've read them all, we've looked at them, we've heard the recommendations. Any question or comment now? Mr. Smith, have you gotten anything on Facebook regarding these bids or any questions or comments? And he's answering no, shaking his head no. All right, if there's no other comment or question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Jenny.
H, hire Barry Dennis as a Public Works utility laborer effective upon successful completion of pre-employment screenings.
Motion approved.
Second?
I have a motion and second. Mark, I think Barry is just replacing somebody we promoted up the ladder, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, it's not a new addition or new individual. Barry, welcome to the crew. Any other question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I, reappoint Angela Thompson to the Owensboro Regional Hospital Board, term 10/31/2020, expiring 10/31/2023.
Move to approve?
Second?
I have a motion and second. Commissioners, Ms. Thompson, as Jenny noted, served one term. She's done an excellent job. Ms. Thompson's a local attorney. She brings a lot to the table. And I want to personally thank her for serving the first term, and I know she'll continue to do a good job going forward. Any other question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
J, reappoint Taylor DeVoe to the Owensboro-Davis County Convention and Visitors Bureau, term 6/30/2020, expiring 6/30/2022.
Move to approve? Second?
I have a motion and second. Commissioner Wathen, since you serve as liaison, would you want to talk about Ms. DeVoe?
She does a real nice job. She's an accountant, and she helps a lot with making sure we keep our books straight. And in fact, she was, worked a lot helping us do our budgets, so she does a nice job.
Good. Ms. DeVoe, thank you for your first term, and I know you'll continue to do a great job going forward. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
K, appoint Kurt Baker to the Owensboro-Davis County Convention and Visitors Bureau as the hotel motel appointee, term 6/30/2020, expiring 6/30/2023.
Move to approve? Second?
I have a motion and second. First, I'd like to thank Darsha Patel for serving 2 terms. I think Darsha did an excellent job. Commissioner Wathen, the hotel motel group organization submitted 3 names to us, and I think Kurt was chosen. Do you want to talk a little bit about him?
Yes, first I'd like to also thank Darcia. She put in a lot of time and did a nice job on that board for those 2 terms. But Kurt Baker, he has approximately 30 years in the hospitality industry. I think he even worked in China for three or 4 years as a hotel manager. He served on a different CVB board in St. Louis area, and he's currently active in there's a tourism program at UK, and he serves on that board. So he's really active in his industry, and we're looking forward to him serving and helping us out.
Okay. Any other question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
L, second reading of KOC 620.54/2020, an ordinance relating to the discontinuance of a portion of Old Ben Ford Road.
Move to approve?
Second?
I have a motion and second. Mark, do you have any comment on it?
I do not. I just recommend.
We pretty much have gummed that one to death. We've gone through all the legal steps and procedures, haven't we, Claude?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Any question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
M, second reading of KOC 620.55/2020, an ordinance relating to the discontinuance of a portion of a 12-foot public alley paralleling Church Street.
Move to approve?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Again, this is one that we've had viewers, we've had our first reading, second reading, a public hearing. Claude, we did everything on this one that we should have.
We have.
Okay, Mark, any comment or question?
No, sir.
There being no other comment or question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item.
And second reading of KOC A.98, 2020, an ordinance relating to the Davis County budget.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Hendricks, this is the day that we all have been waiting for.
I've read the details of the budget with the first reading, but this is the budget for fiscal year '21 with a total revenue and expense of $77,379,849. Since the last meeting, this document has been, and the entire budget was forwarded to the State Department of Local Government. They reviewed it for form and classification and returned that back approved. There's nothing changed in this reading from the first reading which you saw. Therefore, I recommend approval.
Any question or comment? Well, first, let me say to Mr. Hendricks, thank you for the hard work on the budget, to all the staff that worked on it, to you, the commissioners who are liaison to all the departments. I think probably one of the easier budgets. I know that there were more department heads who didn't have to come in and explain themselves than ever. Of course, the county engineer, I always make him come in and talk. You know, going forward, we really, it's a, I didn't want to use the term crapshoot, but that's about the best description of what revenues might be. We have a balanced budget. We have reserves, but just because something is in the budget does not necessarily mean that it will get spent. There are some items that we put in several of the departments, and I told them those things, if money gets tight, we very well may cut it out and go again next year to look at it. But in general, I think that Davis County is in good shape. I think that you guys have done a great job watching out for the dollars that are sent to fiscal court and making sure that we spend them wisely. So with that, any question or comment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Consideration for discussion, A, other business to be brought before the Davis County Fiscal Court. I know of zero.
I have none, so we've gotten through again, haven't we?
B, public comments.
Okay, this is a time which normally, when we have the public sitting out here, we will invite them to come to the podium, identify themselves, and talk on anything other than what's on the agenda. There is no public, so while we just wait a few seconds, what's the delay? 1 minute. I might say again that it's our intent to open the doors to the courtroom to the public on July the 2nd. I think that's our first meeting in July. We do ask that you come in, and we're probably going to continue. Mark, you might have Joe Paul or Jerry cordon off every other pew so that we can have people social distance. And I don't know, we'll just have to have the good people use their common sense to stay 6 foot apart. I don't think, depending, I'm going to ask that they submit to a temperature check or wear masks. I would strongly recommend it, particularly since I've got a bunch of old guys sitting up here on this bench that are subject to COVID-19. But we're not going to make that mandatory. It absolutely, I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see real live people. I've had my fill of Zoom meetings and all those other electronic things. Yes? Did we, Jenny?
I don't have it in front of me.
I do not have my, do you have it on your? Okay. Oh, Claude, you're exactly right, because we're going to do the 30th, June the 30th, and why would we have another
That's
meeting?
what I had.
Yeah. So July, folks, I'm sorry, July the 9th will be the first meeting that we open it up. So July the 9th is our first meeting, but it will be published in the paper. Thank you, County Attorney, for bringing that to my attention. David, anybody? Didn't think there would be. Next item, Jenny.
C, comments by Daviess Fiscal Court.
Mr. Koger.
We've had passed out a lot of the PPE masks, and I think we've still got a lot more to go. So appreciate everybody coming and picking them up. If you need more, they're not going to cost you anything.
Well, but we stopped. We're not going today was the last day that we were going to do that. We made that announcement. So.
Will there be another day?
No more after this.
Do we have any more masks?
We do have some masks still that we have today. Mark, I think just shy of 5,000 masks. We're getting very few people showing up and taking advantage of it. And to move that many, we even had to open it up to people who had picked up masks in the past. So we've decided that we're not going to distribute any more masks. We think that we probably penetrated the market. That's number one. Number two, masks are now available for purchase by folks. Number three, we want to continue to keep a sufficient reserve just in case. So anyway, you're right. I think everybody was very appreciative of getting those masks. Anything else? Commissioner Wathen?
You mentioned it earlier, the COVID-19 response fund. I just wanted to mention we've given 46 grants to different agencies. I think actually it's 41 agencies because some of them have gotten multiple grants. And we've given out $332,473. So a whole lot of folks been helped.
I started saying, that's just think about it, it's $332,473 that would not have gone into the public's hands or gotten into public's hands to help with unemployment, to help with food, to help with all the other services. So thank you for serving on that. Anything else?
Just mention, a large portion of that money actually went to help feed people. That's probably the number one
Okay.
reason that we've given out the money. So
Okay.
it's a good program.
It is. Any other item? Did you have another announcement that you wanted to make?
Yeah, I did.
Hey, Judy does that to me all the time, so does Jenny.
I just mentioned, I forgot I was going to mention the parks, the county parks we have some announcements for opening. On June 15th, we're going to open the youth ball diamonds, and they'll also get to have their sports leagues. They're going to follow the guidelines that are given by the governor, but they'll be able to start playing some games. That'll be on June 15th as well. June 22nd, we're going to start letting people use our shelters for 50 people or less. And then some of the other things that have always been open is the green belt and the hiking trails and the gun club and just the general green space in the park. So hopefully we'll move to open some other things here in the near future.
We've been working, Ross Lee's been working in conjunction with the Parks Director from the city, trying to make sure that the city and county coordinated their openings so that the county parks didn't get inundated because the city parks weren't, or the city parks didn't get inundated. So this is a result of what they've done, as well as looking at CDC and state guidelines. So I look forward to the day when we got a gazillion kids jumping up and down in our spray parks and riding the merry-go-round. Any other things, Commissioner?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Caslen.
Pass.
Just a couple things. Commissioner, I know you had a little bit of surgery Friday and were not available. The other commissioners and myself attended a peace and reconciliation rally down on the river. I thought it was a good display of community unity, and you know, we've had so many killings here in the last few weeks that has gotten everybody upset. I did a presentation declaring Thursday and then included Friday because we had the terrible rainstorm Thursday as a day of peace and reconciliation. And at the end of the meeting, Reverend Rondlin Randolph came up and presented the county with a artist rendering of Mr. Floyd, and we have hung that picture. I was going to make a big deal, but we have hung that picture, and I don't know if our cameraman or our operations can show it over on the wall. I think it's a very good drawing. It's a reminder of that terrible tragedy, and a terrible tragedy precipitated by a rogue police officer. That's all I can say. I don't believe that 99% of our police enforcement and law officers are like a lot of the cops that are being portrayed. I think the worst thing that a good cop could see is a bad cop, because it just makes everybody look terrible. And I say that from the standpoint, if you remember when we were having some issues with the ad districts, and we had one ad district that wasn't doing what they should have done, it reflected on all the ad districts. When we have a county administration that goes awry, it reflects on all local governments, or a city government that does the same thing, because then people, they do not separate good from evil. They just lump us all into the same boat. And I want to thank Reverend Randolph, the NAACP, the Human Relations Commission, Black Expo, and 2 or 3 other organizations that were involved in putting that on, and it was a very peaceful rally. I think Owensboro and Daviess County were on display as to how a community should conduct those things. So thank you. Commissioners, as you are aware, several months ago we voted to sign a contract with a gentleman regarding the lease of Little Hurricane, where they were going to bring a boat dock in. And I'm only bringing this up today because I got a call from a citizen who had been informed by those people that were leasing that boat dock that Daviess County was hindering their construction of the boat dock. And I want to assure each and every one of you out there that nothing could be further from the truth. That Daviess County Fiscal Court, each of you commissioners as well as myself, want nothing more than to see that boat dock open.
Absolutely.
And that boat dock be a success. But when someone signs a lease agreement, we are going to follow the terms of the lease agreement, and we expect that the lessee to follow the terms of the lease agreement. And I think this gentleman that called me, and I'm going to have another call, but the gentleman that called me said that we were holding up construction. Well, first of all, the lease says that a plat or drawing of everything that's going to be done at that boat dock will be submitted to the Parks Department and the Engineering Department for their approval. I mean, if you lease my house and you want to do something to it, you're going to have to get my approval before I allow you to do it, because you could completely change that complexity. Now, the fact that that boat dock and the property that we lease, which, by the way, is at no cost, I believe, isn't that correct? Other than the maintenance of the, so it's at no cost other than routine maintenance, includes floodplain and floodway, isn't that correct? And that requires a permit from the Division of Water, and it requires a permit from the Corps of Engineers. And to use that property as a boat dock, a retail boat dock, which is what they're going to put in, requires a conditional use permit, none of which has been attained by this person. The lessor or the lessee came in and dozed out a roadway into some trees.
Yes, I saw that.
you were with me, Commissioner, and saw that, and that white rock wasn't in the dirt that was on the,
It was not.
on the, or the parking area, and poured white rock, dumped white rock all the way back into those trees where they built some kind of a structure, which contrary to the person that called me, is not just a shade structure. Why would you need a shade structure up in the middle of the trees? This thing is made out of huge telephone poles. I don't know how far in the ground they go, and huge steel beams. So clearly in violation, but even though I had a contact with the person, I said, look, here's what you're gonna have to do if you're gonna move forward. And the gentleman I talked to told me he's the guy that's gonna do it all. But in the end, it's our property, and if there's a violation, the Corps is not gonna look at that lessee, they're gonna look at us. Now, our recourse is to go back to the lessee, but we don't want that. We want the doggone boat dock in there, and I'm sorry that we're only requesting that this person leasing the property does what is right and what we would require of anybody else. They don't need to go blaming fiscal court for their lack or failure to comply with the lease and to get the proper permits. Because I want to tell you, you do something on the Ohio River, the banks of the Ohio River, everybody's watching you. Everybody's watching you. So I just wanted the public to know, hey, we want that boat dock built, and we want it open as quickly as possible. And fiscal court's not responsible for the lessee not doing the things that he agreed to do at the beginning. A little preachy there, I'm sorry, but it makes me mad when people will go out and tell other people or blame other people for their own faults and failures. So that's all I have. If there is no other business to be brought before Daviess County Fiscal Court, without exception, we are adjourned.